Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hauscast. Got another exciting guest here today. We got Rob. Dad, you guys have been working together for a long time.
Awesome guest, yes. Rob and I have been working together for, I think it's 10 years now.
I want to say
right?
10, ever since I started, yeah.
Yeah, 2012, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And use Rob for all the buyer inspections, but we also do what they call seller inspections, which are our pre-inspections.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's been keeping me alive in this market.
Is that right?
Yeah, this is the pre-home inspection. So what's been happening is, especially last year, there was very little conditional offer inspections as the market, kind of dictated, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I would do is there's a lot of pre-home inspections, which kept me alive, and then there's a lot of inspections when people bought the house and when they moved in, they still want to know what was going on
Just
with
some
it.
peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that kind of kept me going as well, right? But
Yeah.
last year was a crazy year for this industry.
Most definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. Now the advantages of a pre-home inspection for the seller, what do you think it's
A lot of it just kind of gives you an idea of what condition your house is in. It's good for the potential buyers too. And then on top of it, anything that I find that's fixable, a lot of these people will, like the sellers will fix it before they put it on the market. Yeah. And that way they get a cleaner offer and their house is, more presentable essentially, right?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, that's good. We know that I've been at this for a couple of months now. I'm completely naive to home inspections.
Because we haven't had them.
No, and it's like there's no pre-home inspections on some of the places that I've looked at either. So it's like I'm in the dark when it comes to it. How long has it been like that now, where it's kind of shifted like that? When the market started to accelerate, I guess.
Well, last year was probably 2017 had happened. You remember that, Frank? So that was kind of a bad year for the home inspecting industry as a whole as well, right? Mm-hmm. Last year was almost even worse, right? It was like everything was firm, and like I said, I think I did. If I did 300 inspections last year, which isn't bad for the type of year it was, I probably did maybe 15 conditional offers. That was it.
Really?
Like everything else was pre-home or a walkthrough. A lot of times people, when they go to see the house, they want me to come with them and just kind of look at the major stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But through COVID, it was, you're only getting a half hour. Sometimes you're only getting 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You weren't
There's
seeing,
a lot of that.
you weren't seeing much.
No,
you know what I mean?
walking the
You'd have to
place.
focus on like the major things,
the
right?
essentials.
All you could do, right?
But even 2-3 years ago, when buyers would do an inspection before they put an offer in. But we weren't seeing that this time because you're competing against 15, 20 other offers, and if you do that every time, it's going to bankrupt you.
It costs a lot of money for
Right?
sure. You give it at a decent price because you're not there a long time, but you don't. It's not proper. The guy's not getting a report. You know what I mean? He's getting it all verbal, and again, you're not seeing everything that you want to see. So as for me, I don't even like doing those, but you have to sometimes.
It's too superficial.
It is, right?
There's not a proper procedure
That's
behind
right.
it,
It's not a you got it. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and honestly, what does a home inspection look like? You talk about like speeding through a place, looking for the essentials. What are those essentials that you're kind of looking for?
Well, I would go to the top floor and I run all the water. I check the attic quickly to see if there's any mold, see if it's ventilated properly. Test a couple plugs. I usually just leave the windows alone. You can see if they're decent or not, but I don't have time to, start messing around with them. You only got a half hour, right? So, you're the water, and then you're looking at the electrical, you're looking at the HVAC unit, you're looking at the structure from the outside, you're looking at the roof shingles, like all these things, but quickly. You know what I mean? It's accelerated, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you do your thermal. I have a thermal imager which shows you if there's anything leaking, all that type of thing.
In the walls, right?
You got it in the walls, or overheated wires in the walls.
Okay.
Any type of differential when it comes to temperature, essentially, right?
Now, when it's a full home inspection, that's going to take you usually 2-3 hours.
2-3 hours, depending on the house. Yeah. So, like a normal home, like say a 2,000 square foot home, you're probably about 2,000 square feet, or 2 hours. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the condition of the house, right? I've done houses that are not, 800 square feet. It took me 4 hours because it's a disaster. You know what I mean?
The inside.
And I've done, houses that are 5,000 square feet in 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because it's, mint and everything's, nice and clean and new, right? So it just depends. It has a lot to do with the condition as well, right?
Yeah. You mentioned what would be causing overheated wires? Is that something that you find in the walls?
Yeah, like bad connections, right? Mm-hmm. So, usually with wires, wires or junction boxes, you want to make sure it's moretted, nice and tight and taped up. Some guys just kind of do one twist on the moret, and then it gets loose over time, right? And then it starts to arc, you know what I mean? And that's what creates the heat and, essentially a fire hazard, right?
Yeah. So, what would be some other problems that you're really kind of trying to identify, or some more common ones? You mentioned water. I guess water is a really big one for most places, right?
there's always, it's very common to see leaks in drains under sinks, showers that haven't been taken care of or caulked. You see leaking on the ceiling below. You see a lot of that, and especially kitchen sinks you see a lot of, because a lot of people just dump their grease down there, the food particles, and then just over time it weighs on the drain, and then it tends to leak, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of that. Foundations, most of them are concrete, some of them are concrete block. They're going to have cracks, concrete cracks. You just want to make sure it's not big enough for water to get in, and if it is, then you can do an epoxy injection. You can do, there's fixes, right? You just want to make sure it's not flooding out your basement. You know what I mean?
It's fully gone, right?
Yeah. Those epoxy injections, do they warrant those for life now, Ron?
Some companies do. Some companies will do. I know they call it the company's called the Crack Doctor. I know that they do.
That's a catchy name, the Crack Doctor. Okay.
You know who you got to call.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to call the Crack Doctor.
But yeah, I think they do lifetime, and then there's other ones like Aqua Seal. They'll do like 20 years, 25 years. Yeah. So because sometimes they do open back up, right? And it's it's the nature of your foundation kind of moving, right?
Yeah.
You got to remember, your house is a living, breathing thing. And this is what I always tell people. After at the end of the inspection, listen, I'm here for 2 hours. I find everything I can,
right?
But it's a living, breathing thing. You're going to find leaks down the road. There's going to be, you know what I mean? You're a homeowner. You have to understand that, put a little bit of money aside. Your roof's going to get older. Your furnace may crap out. You know what I mean? These type of things.
But I think one of the big things is when you do the home inspection, you have the consultation with the buyer afterwards as well, because that's an education for them.
For sure.
Right? The first house, they haven't got a clue what
a lot of these, for sure, and a lot of these buyers are first-time home buyers, like you said, or they could be second or third, and they still need to be educated, right? And that's common. But changing filters, shutting off water supplies to the outside for the winter. Changing a filter and a humidifier once a year. All these little things that need to add up, right? Cleaning gutters, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying like houses, living, breathing, like you can say like it creaks and those kind of things through a day as it heats up and warms up.
Exactly.
Would there be like a time of year or even a time of day that's best to be doing home inspections for somebody? Like where the house is more responsive or something like that to you being able to notice things?
It's bad in the winter. The winter's bad because you can't tell if anything's leaking. Everything's frozen. You can hardly see the foundation. Most of the time you can't see the roof. You're kind of relying on the sellers. Information essentially. I did my roof last 5 years ago, or these type of things, right? So I don't like doing them in the winter. It's a lot of not inspected on my reports, and I hate that. You know what I mean? But it's just the nature of the business, and you can't run the AC. So there's a lot of stuff you can't do in the winter. I'd say in like the spring and the fall is a good time because you can see it gets wet, right? So you can see, if the basement's gonna, how it takes, if water's getting in. I guess that would probably be the only, the only positive. Other than that, you can, summer's fine to do inspections as well.
Yeah, you get the full potential. It's just a bit limited on the outside for winter, right?
That's right. And actually, it's a lot limited. It's annoying, but it's just the way it is, right? You buy a house in the winter, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
right?
it's the nature of the beast.
Right. You can't see the yard either, right?
I don't know what the grass looks like exactly. No, 100%. That's true.
No, it's just word of mouth, right? That's what you're going by, and I know
pretty much,
with home inspections there can be consequences too, right? If you're not careful with it.
For sure, and you have to explain that to people because some people you can explain it till you're blue in the face, but some people still don't get it, right? They want to blame someone. Someone's got to be blamed, right? So you got to you're walking a fine line, right? You know what I mean? But knock on wood, I've been in this 10 years. I've never had an issue. I've never been sued. Maybe
no horror stories or anything like that, right?
No, I had one guy got mad at me because he had some mice in his attic, and I'm like, mice come and go, man. I can't tell you. Everybody's got mice in their attic. Like,
there's never mice in my attic before, right? Exactly. What are you talking about?
You can get into crack this small or
Oh,
smaller.
But that's really been my only thing, right? And and I just told him, you tell him, listen, you're a homeowner now, man.
Yeah.
Like, you back onto a field. Like,
Welcome to the reality.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, right? So, yeah.
Remember I remember, speaking of pre-home inspection, you did one for me a few years ago, and you found asbestos around the registers.
Yeah, that's a common
that?
thing. Yeah, that's a common thing.
I had no
Asbestos,
idea.
right?
Yeah. So what they did back in the day, and usually it was around
Built in the 60s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 50s to late 60s. They put the so you have your register boot, and then they put a small piece of asbestos around it, like maybe an inch around, okay? And what that did is it kept the metal from the wood, right? So anywhere the metal was in contact with like the wood floor or the framing, they used it as an insulation because they thought if that metal ever heated up too much, it might combust, which would never happen. But that was their thought process.
Just in case, right?
So yeah, and asbestos comes in a handful of forms, but that's the one that I don't like because you have air constantly pumping through it.
Right.
So if you have any
Particles.
loose fibers there, you know what I mean, it might be blown into the air.
That's
And
dangerous.
if it's in your attic, okay, it sucks. It's gonna cost you some money to get it out, but you could leave it there and it would never affect you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's more
not
for
affect-
resale value, right?
Yeah.
If it's in your plaster in the walls in those old houses, again, it's not gonna affect you until you start knocking stuff down, right?
Yeah.
But when it's around the registers, that's a little bit more, worrisome, essentially.
Yeah. I remember when that happened, we did get a company in to remedy it, obviously.
Yeah,
and we
they were
got the
like a couple-
certificate.
They're a couple $100 or something.
Each register, something like that. I think there was 7. So we just
It adds up. It adds up for sure.
Well, we disclosed that,
For sure, yeah.
right?
there you
And
go.
it was no problem.
That's how you do it, and that's a perfect example of why you should get a pre-home inspection.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean?
That's
Just
Yeah.
to be prepared,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right.
'Cause
Like
we
that
wouldn't
whole
have known.
street had it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That whole
Yeah, when
area,
it's
all those
built,
houses, like
right?
that's just the way they did it,
And
right?
most
So-
of the homeowners don't know.
That's
Yeah.
right. No,
You
no,
gotta pull it
no.
apart to find
Right?
something
That's
like
right.
that,
Yeah, they don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely true. Yeah.
Most people probably don't know that they're looking at asbestos unless they're with someone that knows what they're looking
No,
at, right?
exactly.
Like I
No.
wouldn't know what asbestos looks like
That's
right
right.
now off the top of my
No,
head. Right?
exactly.
So,
And like I said, it comes in many forms. That form looks like almost like a tape. And there are some houses I've done where they've like the basement's unfinished, so you can see all the exposed ductwork.
Yeah.
And they've wrapped the whole ductwork
Yes,
in it, and
yeah.
it's like, ooh, that's going to cost
Luckily,
you some money.
this one wasn't.
Yeah. No, that's very rare. I think I've seen 3 over my lifetime where they did that, but that's an expensive fix for sure.
and you said a certificate as well for the people that remove it. Is it that's
Yeah,
like,
they do like an air quality. So they'll take it off. They do an air quality test, and they say
Okay.
everything's safe in here. Here's
to
your
certify
certificate.
everything
And you
that
got
it's
it.
legit.
Yeah,
right?
and you got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, for
Quality
sure.
of air.
When they stopped building with asbestos, was that in the 60s,
70s, I think. I did one up in I can't remember. It's like Beaverton area or something. But it was probably 1975, 1978, and they had it there.
That late, eh?
Yeah, it was late. Yeah, I think that was like the tail end of it or something. Yeah.
Try to squeak it through.
Yeah, I don't think it was like really common up to there, but like it was almost 1980. Yeah, but really they tended to. I think they got it off the market around, the mid 70s. I want to say. So there might have just been some kicking around that the guy had. You know what I
Use
mean?
it up.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Got it at a real deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Got some cheap insulation for
Yeah,
it.
no, exactly. So.
Question I have here, Rob, with
Yeah.
we came across this a few months ago. And It's an actual whole building in Pickering
Yeah.
has Kitech plumbing.
Yeah.
What are the dangers of Kitech plumbing?
What is it?
So Kitech Plumbing, there's a big lawsuit going on right now. I don't know if it's gotten anywhere at this point, but they used it from the late 90s to the early 2000 or 2007, 2008 or 9. The plumbing, it's like the pipe itself is fine.
Yeah.
It's the connections. Okay,
it's
so
just
what's
connection.
happening is the pipe has some. I think it's aluminum. It's aluminum based, and the connections are all a different metal. So when you got 2 different metals together, what happens is you get that oxidation, and then eventually it weakens and pop. Right. So it's the connections. So if you see any like plastic piping now, which they're using all for the new houses,
yeah.
it's just all crimp.
Yeah.
You'll see all the connections, and and they're all plastic now. So every T, every 90 are all plastic and crimped with like a brass ring, right?
So shark.
Yeah, kind of, right? And that's the reason they're doing it now. Like, because even it wasn't just Kitech. There was they used the PEX stuff too, but they used say a metal connector with a brass ring, and then it starts to oxidize, and it starts to and then it gives way.
Yeah.
It's not gonna all go at once. We're gonna have one break here. You got to fix it. You got to have one break here. So they're and this is the reason it's not a bad idea to do condo inspections, and I do a handful of them a year. Like, it's not uncommon, but a lot of people go, it's a condo inspection. You know what I mean? Like, what do I need, right? Everything's covered, right? Yeah. But I know a couple guys where I found that, and the condo corp lays that on them. And it's for just like a normal whatever, like 600 square foot condo, one bathroom, one kitchen. It was like $6,000 to change it.
Exactly.
Each apartment, right? So these guys, that's not cheap.
No,
it's
not.
Everybody's got that kind of money sitting around, right?
We had one like that with the buyer, and told him about it. He said, "No, I don't want to get into that."
No, it's true. Well,
right?
Insurance tend to kind of shy away from that too. They don't want to deal with that because they know they're going to be paying it out, right? Yeah. So. Yeah, that's kind of just the lowdown on Kitech. It's not really
not that common.
No, not anymore. And I've done a lot of houses in between those years, and the house, I think I've seen like 2 or 3 houses with it. Most of the time, you'll see it in condos. Yeah, that's where I saw it the most. Yeah,
is that right?
Used in mass, basically, right?
Yeah, they usually the pipes are blue and red,
orange, blue and orange. Yeah. So those are the ones you would see. Yeah, and a lot of the time they'll have the big Kitech, writing on.
Oh, okay. So it's pretty easy to identify.
Yeah, I can for sure. Yeah, but it's usually like that really orangey and blue. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So Kitech and asbestos, those are a couple of red flags. Any other red flags that aren't really something that was used before that, like, if you see that in a place, you're like, no, that's got to go?
Well, there's always been a thing about aluminum wiring that people don't really love. My brother's a master electrician. I've wired quite a few panels for him and helped him out when we were slow in 2017, right? Yeah. And there's nothing really wrong with aluminum. Like, they still bring aluminum in for your main feed. So your main feed off the street is aluminum.
Is it?
Yeah, right? It's all aluminum. Right?
And most commercial buildings are aluminum too,
all
right?
Aluminum, right? Yeah. So what it is there's a lot, like, there's a stigma there where your branch circuits, like your plugs, your lights, all that stuff, the insurance company want copper, right? And the reason for that is aluminum. So when they started using aluminum, it was, I think about 68 to about 75 was like the very popular time to use aluminum. I guess copper was at like a high, and it was hard to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so they brought it in, and aluminum is a good conductor, right? So, but the problem with aluminum is it's soft, right? So when electricity runs through it, it heats up and it expands, right? But when you unplug or turn your lights off and it cools down, it contracts. So now, if you've ever terminated a plug, you know how you wrap it around the screw. Yeah. So your metal's going large, small, and then eventually loosens the screw and starts to arc, right?
Okay.
And that's why they don't like it. So there's been a few fires that happened. So there are a couple ways of dealing with it, and I know insurance companies will allow it as long as there's an ESA certificate with it, which is Electrical Safety Authority.
Right.
So what you do is you go to every plug switch, every unit or whatever, and you take it off, and you marette a small piece of copper to the aluminum, and you use like a nylock paste, I think they call it, just a cooling paste, and then you tie it in, and then you bring the copper into the actual unit. So that's called pigtailing.
Pigtailing.
Yeah.
And that resolves the problem.
That resolves the problem.
As far as insurance is concerned as well.
Yep. So and usually it's about $15 to $20. Now everything's doubled, but
of course,
$15 to $20 a unit. So on a normal house like 2,000 square foot home, you're looking at $3,000 or something. It's not the end of the world.
No.
But they can. So, but again, it's more branch circuits. It's not. Like if you were to put a hot tub in your house where it's just one feed going right to your panel, that's aluminum. They'll use aluminum for that.
Is that right?
Yeah, they'll use aluminum for your stove. Just as long as it's just one circuit, because the way plugs and switches work is they jump off each other, right? So every 15 amp breaker, there's about 12 units, right? So whether they be plugs, switches, whatever, right? Yeah. So that's the way it works.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that I think that would be the only other thing that's kind of kind of sticks out in my mind.
Yeah,
from
something
that
to look
question.
for, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's safe. It's safe stuff, and it just depends. A lot of it's you're kind of at the mercy of your insurance company, right?
Yeah.
And that's all, right?
Is the pigtailing how commercial places get around it? Because that's what why would commercial places use it mainly?
Commercial, no,
residential?
they're all copper as well. It's just your
are?
main feed.
Okay, just your main
aluminum.
feed.
Yeah, unless the commercial unit was made in the late '60s, early '70s, then but.
Okay.
No, they should be all copper. I've done a bunch of commercial units, and it's all copper.
They're all copper? Okay.
Yeah, it's just your main feed that comes in as aluminum, right?
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
Rob, you always recommend that the buyer is there for the home inspection as well.
I like
right?
that. Yeah. And if they can't be, listen, I understand it's a lot of the time they can't, and that's fine. But I do recommend it if they can make it. If they don't, what I do is I usually do the inspection. I give them a call right after. I give them the lowdown on everything. And then I tell them to read through the report very thoroughly.
It's a pretty thorough report, very extensive.
Exactly, and if you have any questions, give me a call. You know what I mean? That type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
What's the process look like for a buyer? So you give them the report because it's the condition for them to decide whether or not they want to go forward with the
so
place, right?
like today, so I'll go to Alliston, I'll do this one, and so I'll walk. Usually what I do is I do the perimeter of the house, the outside. I check the roof, the garage. I make sure everything's good that way, and then usually the buyers just kind of look around, right? They're excited, right? They're looking around, and that's fine, right? So, and then if I say, usually I'll do the outside, then I'll come get you, and I'll say, okay, this is the problem here, this is the problem here, I would do this here, and then I go to the upstairs, and then they kind of push off, and I do the upstairs, and I come upstairs, and I'll show you a couple things, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I do level by level, right? And then at the end, we go over everything that we discussed. So they at least visually can see what I saw and what I'm talking about, but then on top of it, I give them kind of a synopsis at the end, which is good, and then they get the report with the pictures and everything, right? So, and then if they have any kind of follow-up questions, they can call me.
Rob, if there's a major red flag, would you say, you know what, it'll cost you this much to fix it, or you know what, I don't know if I would go through with this?
Yeah, I think out of all the inspections I've done, I think I said not to go through with it once or twice, not very often. I give them kind of just, listen, this is what it is, this is where your price range is, this is what you can afford.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just give them a cost, right?
Like I don't want you to walk away from a house because of something that's going to cost you whatever, like $5,000 down the road. It's not the end of the world.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So you kind of just educate them, and then you let them make a decision. Some people are really picky. Where they're like, no, they want a perfect house. So yeah, I get that.
And it doesn't exist.
You got it, right?
Yeah.
You're buying a used house. You know what I mean? And you know what? A lot of these used houses are better than the new houses nowadays. Like I do a lot of these PDI inspections for people. It's a disaster.
PDI stands for
pre-delivery inspection.
Oh, okay,
right?
pre-delivery
So for brand new homes,
right?
It's bad.
I've seen some videos online for that stuff, and it's like horror stories. The way they build the places, it's like they're not even thinking loose railings.
Oh yeah, no, like I remember them releasing the house to this couple, and there was like one toilet. It was a big house. There was one toilet in the house, one sink. All the bathrooms weren't done. The kitchen wasn't in. There's a balcony on the master bedroom that sliding door wasn't in. The guy was still doing the flat roof while it was released to him.
Really?
Yeah, it's pouring rain out. It's leaking inside. I'm like, what is happening here? And everyone just blames it on COVID, right? Well, we couldn't get stuff and blame it on COVID. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to get stuff. Yeah, it's like, well, then don't release it. Man.
Yeah.
You can't release it in this condition, right?
Trying to pump out houses, right?
Yeah, no, exactly, right? So.
Well, that's why it's important to use a reputable builder.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely.
Makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
No, and some of those things like the leaks you're talking about, that does irreparable damage to a house potentially
For
too,
sure,
right?
yeah.
And it's before it even hits the market, right?
Yeah.
It's just
and if
silly.
they didn't get me in, you wouldn't have saw that, right? Like that's a thermal shot, right? And you can see it, right? So
those kind of things wouldn't be covered by what's the warranty?
It should be Terran. Yeah, it's covered by Terran. So that's what I'm doing
warranty.
it for, right?
Yeah.
So then they have a list, and then they go, "Hey, Terran here." You know what I mean?
Fix it,
right? But that's a time-consuming thing too, right? They take their time. You'll see.
And you just want to move into a new place too, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That whole process.
It's an insurance company. You'll see it when you go get this fixed on your roof, right?
Yeah.
So, I did the same thing. What happened? I had my valve on my master master bathroom toilet went, the fresh water line, it popped, right? So I ran into and I turned the water off. And then it went all the way down the ductwork, right in my basement, ceiling, everything. And it took them probably, I don't know, I want to say it didn't get fixed for like 3 months.
Really?
Yeah. These guys, they take them
Oh my gosh, yeah. They no rush.
No, they aren't, right? They come in and they assess it, and you got your blowers in there. They leave the blowers for days. Yeah, so anyways, but
And Terry on warranty for people, that's for first-time owners of a house, right?
Yeah.
It's 7-year warranty, right? That's
it goes up to
for
7.
specific things, right?
So
there's levels to it.
Yeah.
Basically.
So your Terry-on will be they got the 30-day warranty, which is what that's why they want me to come in for the PDI, right? Mm-hmm. So you get your 30-day warranty. I think that's like all nicks and scratches and like little stuff, okay? But it covers everything. But like that's and that's kind of what they drop in the first year, right? So then the first year is like all your major stuff, and then there's a 3-year, and then there's a 7-year, which is like your foundation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
it's important to know that kind of stuff. So.
no, some people get me in on the 7th year or even the 3rd, just to be like, anything going on here?
Just to make sure, right?
Yeah.
It's
like when
peace
you
of
buy
mind.
a car warranty, right?
Yeah.
It's only good for a year. You want to take it to your mechanic at 10 months or 11 months to get everything checked.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, just to make sure,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree.
Right?
Good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
No, that's great now. A lot of topics we've covered here. Really appreciate Rob going
no
from
worries.
first-time homes to some of
yeah.
the stuff you got to look for in these older houses, 67 years old, asbestos. Really appreciate you coming down and informing us because for me, I don't know much about home inspections, unfortunately, but it's something that really needs to come back. It's something that's important to peace of mind for people, both buyers and sellers, right?
Yeah, you're starting to see it. You're starting to see it shift big time. It's slowly becoming a buyer's market. I shouldn't even say slowly. It's like it started.
All our buyers get home inspections.
Yeah.
There's no ands if
Just to be
about it.
You'll learn. We'll go as you get further into this business. We'll go through.
We'll be talking more about
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Thanks a bunch, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in for an episode. It was great having you, Rob.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
And if anybody wants a good resource for real estate, we got a book that we're giving out to people from buying, selling, and everything in between, even stuff about home inspections to make sure that you're covered. So reach out to us if you're interested in that, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.
Thank you.